The brothers Wisp. The brothers Wisp, brothers Wisp. The brothers Wisp. The brothers.
You're
Wisp.
now listening to Greg. It's the brothers Wisp.
Hey everybody, this is Tommy with the Brothers Wisp. WISPA was super awesome. WISPAPalooza was super awesome and fun. A lot of great people there. I guess a few people caught the flu, and unfortunately didn't get to see everyone that I wanted to, but that's life. It was also really hectic for me. I was going to both WISPAPalooza, a friend's wedding, and also Chicago Network Operators Group that week. So definitely was a lot to keep up with. So we did do a cast at the show as normal. Here's the after following this announcement, we'll have that. Note, because of the Mimosa post we made last week on Facebook, I did edit some of the stuff we talked about for that, just so till we get some more clarification. We're currently working with getting in contact with airSpan Mimosa execs to make certain that there's everything's out on the table. Our information in the posts, as far as we know, is still true. And while I have seen third parties say that airSpan/Mimosa has a stockpile of chips, there hasn't been anything consistent in those numbers that they've been quoting. And in my opinion, a lot of those numbers that people have been saying don't match what we know or reality. So we'll see. At this point, I stand behind our post, and even though most of you people know that I am a Mimosa fanboy, so without all that out of the way, here's some quick shout outs to our sponsors who made the trip possible and all the other stuff around here. The Brothers Wisp is brought to you by Sonar, a scalable, intuitive, and comprehensive ISP billing and operational support system. Learn more at Sonar.Software. Quick note, I did get a hold of all of our sponsors, and they will be mixing up their announcements here soon. That or we'll be changing some stuff up. TowerCoverage.com. Tower Coverage is your RF propagation system to empower your network. Real-time data metrics enable your coverage area, reaching your customer base, and more. The industry's best RF propagation mapping system allows website integration for customer sign-up and pre-qualification. Use this data to scientifically plan network expansion and help your WISP succeed. Get a free trial today at TowerCoverage.com. Preseam is an edge network QoE solution that enables proactive management of the network and subscriber experience to achieve higher customer satisfaction while lowering operational costs and increasing revenue. Preseam is made by Adair Networks, whose goal is to enable local and regional ISPs to thrive by solving network problems with products that people love. Launched in 2017, Preseam has helped more than 400 ISPs in the US and around the world deliver better internet to their subscribers. And finally, Villo. A complete mesh Wi-Fi hardware and remote management solution that empowers WISPs of any size to delight your customers, reduce your operating costs, and grow your business. Designed with input and feedback from the ISP community, Villo is proud to be a trusted partner of over 150 ISPs around the world. Quick note, they do have a Wi-Fi 6 access point and mesh system now. And wait, you'll want to check out I did an interview with one of their people, and it was super fun, and we rocked it out. So with all that out of the way, enjoy the show.
Take a ride through space on this mothership. Wireless networking. We talk about equipment and methodology.
Now let's get this party rocking, eh? Hey everybody, this is Tom with the Brothers Wisp. I'm here with a bunch of the crew. So we've got New Face.
Adam Quinn with Virginia Skywire.
Yeah.
Jeremy Austin, Preseam.
Adair Winter with AW Broadband.
Justin Miller, Virginia Skywire.
Thomas, Mimosa.
Ponticello from Radar Talco in Italy.
Cool. Alright, so we're here at WISPAPalooza 2022. So what would you say, so this is your first time here, right, Adam?
Yeah.
What did you say is like the coolest thing you've seen so far?
Pass.
Pass for now. Well, we have David Tatt here. Got to meet him. So thank you very much, Preseam, for bringing him along.
We didn't bring him this time. We brought him in the springtime.
Okay.
But he's made more friends, and yeah, he's with Daniel Denson, I think, or David Denson. Sorry. yeah, I'm sure he's. I haven't seen him with his guitar yet, but he's been.
He was playing this morning.
Was he? Yeah, he's been handing out the stickers, 240/4.
Yeah. So
I'm on the other side of the debate in that one. I don't support it, but
Okay.
I'm happy for him to advertise it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So for a little bit of like groundwork, what is the 240/4?
So it's the entire multicast space, right? Is bigger than it needs to be because we don't use the whole thing. But however, all of our TCP stacks, have that space is essentially reserved. So people who think that we need more IPv4 space rather than moving to IPv6, I support moving to IPv6. People who think we need more space are trying to, get enough groundswell support to encourage both the sort of the IETF track of getting it repurposed officially, and then also the engineering side where everything has to be rewritten. So I think that the burden is too high, the cost is too high, but you can run the math on how many billions the IP space is worth right now versus how much it would cost to implement it.
Yeah. Well, and then who's going to be spending the money for both
Well,
sides?
and if in anything that's IP related, like everybody has to support it or it doesn't work, right? It doesn't work for everyone, and therefore it doesn't work.
Yeah. What about you, Adair? What's cool in the network, in the show?
I honestly, not being a huge Cambium operator, set in on a couple of Cambium sessions, and the EP&P 45 and 4600 looks really cool. And then of course 450M or 450B, I guess really.
How soon is that coming out? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they're saying a couple of years.
So the MV is supposed to be to 2024, and that's a 24x24 radio.
Yeah.
So that was a nice little memory monitor. The V is supposed to be hitting next year, first quarter. And then the 4600 is supposedly available if you have a testing license from the SEC right now.
Yep.
So that's the one that's exciting for me, because that's hitting the market now.
Yeah.
And that's going to be really, really cool. Lots of pictures. I took lots of pictures. Cool. And I'm begging Cambium for their presentation slides, because they also have the fiber stuff that apparently no one got a picture of.
So they did release fiber stuff? Or
They announced it
at
the end, and
I
missed
that.
a picture of it.
That's it.
So, what about you, Justin? What do you think is cool?
Well, I've only had about an hour on the exhibit floor this time, so I haven't really had a chance to really see everything. But there's a lot of different. Well, I would say the ReadyLink stuff is pretty cool. We did a tour of that, and they're like a positron-like solution where they do either coax or phone line G.HN.
Yep.
But it's got different chassis cards in it, and they have.
So you can mix.
Yeah, you can have a switch card, SFP, copper, or F connectors, or phone.
So for some of the MDUs with legacy copper, this is how you can get gigabit over a single pair.
They took us over to the shops at the forum. Yeah, the shops at the forum, and they took us into the back rooms and then to the IDFs and showed us their hardware here and how
they're using it here.
They are dominating the mall market basically because of all the 25 pair phone lines.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
To the actual shops, and they were like, "Yeah, we don't have fiber between this IDF and this IDF because there's no room. It's all full of copper." So what we did was we took one of these boxes and one of these boxes, and we did link aggregation between 8 phone lines, and we're running 8 gigs of traffic across from these 2 IDFs.
That's on that buried 200 pair.
Yeah, buried 200 pair that's probably wet and just
There's
like
significant vectoring going on.
Yes, so and it was pretty cool. Yeah,
that's
they
awesome.
have a really cool.
That's the kind that's been coming for a long time. You know how when you see a technology that's been promised for a while, eventually you begin to think they're never going to solve the power issues. Like with some of the upper stretches of the VDSL world. They ended up just requiring so much power that you could put it in an SFP, and I did so, but it would it'd burn you, right? So it's really fun to see this stuff actually hit the market. Now whether they'll get the MDU market as well, it remains to be seen, because wireless is often a solution there. But I'm glad we've got choice. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and really what sets it apart from the Positron stuff is that they have a cloud platform. and they have self sign up on it too, and all this stuff to provision the endpoints.
So they're doing more like, we'll go ahead and wire the closet up, so doing it more as a service, or are they the actual hardware manufacturer?
They are the hardware manufacturer and the cloud provider too.
Management provider.
Yeah.
Management service. So as an operator, you can get started pretty easily if you've got, run a backhaul of the building.
The cloud section is kind of like a NMS. It kind of watches all of your endpoints and has statuses in green, red if it's up or down, and you can look at historical 60 days worth of trend and stuff like that. So it's a pretty neat little software package that they have.
This is what you need.
Yeah.
Because copper, it can be very fickle. Yeah.
We're looking at how does our call center support this product line, how easy it is for them to understand what they're looking at and use it. And that cloud platform is very nice. So I feel like that might be a good fit. So.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Tomas, what's new and you think is cool?
Between the Unimas booth and the presentations, I haven't had any time to see anything on the show floor yet, so I'm sorry.
What about you, Daniel? What do you see here that's really cool?
I would say two things mainly. The first thing is there's a company from India, it's called Astron, and they made like this new unit that it's E-band, so working 80 gigs, and it has auto alignment and multi-point, and they claim that they can be reaching a range of about 2 kilometers, 10 gigabits. That's very, very promising. Yet it has to be seen if the promise would be delivered. But that's actually very promising because my guys back in Italy hate to deploy 80 gigabits. I don't know about you, but it takes at least 1 day if you want to have the alignment done.
The alignment is very tricky.
Yeah. Very tricky.
I have had links where 2 teams went to do it, and then I had to go do it.
Yeah, of course. That's what is going to happen.
The guy who's done it the most. Yeah.
You're going to be involved at the end of the day because they were like, oh, we cannot reach the target signal. Like, there's still 10 dB to go. They're like, no, you can't
But the link calculation didn't lie.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. So auto alignment is going to be very cool. Also because sometimes on towers you cannot guarantee that it's not going to move.
Right.
And so having auto alignment that is done not mechanically.
Because usually you're engineering the tower for a certain amount of sway and a certain amount of twist, and it isn't practical to when you start dealing with these beam widths that are a third of a degree.
Yep.
That's about as much twist as you're going to get out of the tower.
Absolutely, and with that kind of antennas, then it really takes a little bit just to lose everything, like 45, 50 dBs, like nothing.
Yeah.
And this is so very interesting to see if in the future they're going to deliver what they promise. Second thing that I see is it looks like the market is starting to listen to some requests from operators like ourselves. For instance, I am a big fan of having SFP on both CPE and
as is Mike Hammond, famously.
Yeah, so SFP and also on the CPE and also on the base station. And usually there was only Ceragon that was giving us some point-to-point stuff that will fit the bill, because usually you want to put 2 routers on the tower on the customer side, and you don't want to put a switch in front of them. And it looks like more vendors are starting to deliver that, and I'm happy about it. And finally, one last thing that I've seen is that there seems to be a trend on removing stuff from the cloud and bringing it back on premise, especially for management of fleet. For instance, there is a company who makes an hypervisor for SD-WAN or software-defined network stuff. And to my surprise, I asked where does your fleet command release? Is it a cloud service? Because I always think that the answer is yes, it's obviously a cloud service because it's free. But I said that no, you can deploy whatever you want, even on-premise. And that's actually good news for folks who really value reliability and who really value to have control over their solution.
And that's something I preach all the time. I really don't like having a lot of stuff in the cloud, especially if it pertains to management. I want it to be as close to my network as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes there's that burden of having to manage those servers. So if you don't have that, then cloud is obviously a way to do it. But it freaks me out not knowing that device is in my network under my control. So I get it.
We're kind of not to talk about my product, but we're kind of a hybrid because we understand that risk. Right. So the on-premise portions, your network will function perfectly fine if the cloud is down, and we just will lose some metrics.
Right.
That's not critical.
Right. Exactly.
But we have to process the metrics in the cloud because it's just too much. Right. So I think we've done a good split of that.
I think so too.
Yeah,
Sure.
definitely.
I happened to see another, mentioning that radio vendor. What was the name of that Indian?
Astra.
Astro. There's another one whose name is escaping me that I hadn't seen before. So like there's at least 2 new hardware vendors coming to the show. Like the world is not entirely.
In general, I'm surprised with the number of vendors that are here that I've never seen them. I've never seen them. I'm like, who are these people? They're kind of showing up
A lot
everywhere.
came. You know, that's one of the sort of old school competitors to Sandvine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Team. I think.
Cumry.
Yeah, Cumry. They pronounced
This is their second time.
Oh, were they here last year?
John was at least in the spring.
Okay.
Yeah, John was there in the spring. He's quite a character.
You
really should have him on sometime.
I had him. I got to interview him.
Perfect.
So probably I will be.
He is a old school internet guy. Like he knows the whole entire history of the.
He's been there.
Yeah, he's been there. So yeah, Team Cumry puts out some really great products for ISPs. On the monitoring and the BGP, the Bogon list. I've been using that for years. So it's kind of fun to meet people who actually make that happen.
Yeah, I saw them. I was like, man, WISPA's really made it. Like we have these guys who affect.
Aaron's been coming regularly.
Yeah, but affect the network, internet, in general.
Yeah.
Like
that. How long has Aaron been coming though?
Oh,
I feel like
a number of years.
I know,
just
at least 2019.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I felt like Aaron being here was kind of a big step forward. Honestly, I was like, man.
This is, I think, at least their third
time. Okay. Yeah, they were here in 20. I saw they had a booth at least in 2019. I don't know if they were actually here in 2019.
Oh, okay.
Because I was like, I should totally interview them. I recall not
never seeing them.
Taking turns. So John is here. John, is it John who's here today?
I didn't catch them this year, unfortunately. Yeah. But the whole Facebook Messenger group for the show, there's a lot of guys who are really excited because the guys here are able to make changes.
They're able to make things happen, and that's one thing I found out when I was able to be a fellow at one of the Aaron meetings. They have a fellowship program where they sponsor people to actually join because in any volunteer organization, and not that itself is entirely volunteer, it's that they're employees. It's like 80 employees or something. But in any organization that relies on community input, it's like trying to get people to vote for the WISPA awards.
Right.
It's generally a very small portion. So if you've ever followed NANOG, the North American Network Operators Group mailing list, which is invaluable for if you are a network operator, inevitably every month or so somebody will come complain about an Aaron policy without understanding that Aaron policies are made via the input of the community. So I have had that same experience where I had a ticket that it wasn't getting worked the way that I wanted, and it was, they're asking me for stuff that I didn't think I had to prove, and then I started meeting the people in person and realizing I should have picked up the phone and called them instead of just trying to do it via the ticket, because these people are much smarter than you might know just dealing with the ticket, and they actually care. Mm-hmm. So absolutely, if you're here at the show and you have some kind of problems with your IP space request, or maybe it was at one of the Aaron events where somebody told me you run an IXP, you qualify for free space, and I didn't even know that, or I knew it, but I just hadn't really filtered through. So absolutely, get to know internet governance only works when all the community members are engaged. And somebody said on that mailing list, WISPs could, if there's something we could change in our favor, there's enough of us.
Justin Wilson was talking about
participate in the Aaron's, he's been to them before. Participate in the process. I mean, there's like 100, 150 people who show up for those meetings out of all of the thousands and thousands of providers. Yeah. It's kind of a shame because it's super important.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe they do a bad job publicizing that.
They try. That's why they have the fellowship program. They try hard.
Yeah. So, but it's the nerds of the nerds.
And it's the plumbing. It's like it's not exciting. Policy development is a boring process, but it's important.
Right. Well, to take a left turn, sort of kind of what we were talking about last night, trying to manipulate some policy with, not only with Aaron, but even with the FCC, with presenting them valid data from, the data that Pre-Team has and things like that. You would think that 2,200 people coming to a conference, getting some attention from some of these big, internet players. Probably, I would say more than 90% of us are operating in unlicensed spectrum, and then the FCC is trying to exclude unlicensed spectrum from,
We're pushing
BEAD
back.
funding.
We're pushing back on
You know, that's
look for
we,
some.
we,
look
we
for
need
some
to find
press
some ways to push back. You know?
You'll see some more press and blog posts and stuff soon on that.
Yeah, I've been talking to WISPA. We're going to have another thing. We're actually going to get David here in a couple weeks to talk
Good.
about.
So he'll be post that conversation.
Yeah.
Because when the BEAD NOFO dropped pre-scene, we did a press release right away. I was actually in Ontario at the time, and I said, guys, we have got to speak up about this because WISPs have entrusted us with their data. We know that WISPs can deliver service reliably. Let's make that data available. So that's one of the things that I was actually doing that during the tech roundtable last night, making graphs. Actually, I slacked. It was after hours on the East Coast, and I slacked one of my database guys and like, can you export this for me? And he's like, yeah, here it is.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's hope that it has an effect, right?
Yeah, right.
Because we hear all of your stories. We come to the shows. We get to experience, the aches and pains and the successes of what you're going through, and there's a way to tell that story back out again.
Yeah.
And hopefully in numbers that otherwise perhaps uncaring people will start to care.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually give a little bit of it.
I hope so.
All right, Adam. Any thoughts now?
On some cool stuff that
Yeah.
I saw. Yeah, I was actually very excited to get to go into the back rooms, the forum shops. I wasn't, I felt very at home. Hadn't been in an IDF in a long time.
Yeah. You already chatted about that.
Yeah, okay, fair. So I'm kind of interested. We talked with a vendor, Remote Winbox, which
I just had Mark Perea on do a session with him.
Yeah, we're very interested in the platform because
it's fantastic.
Our call center is not as
If you've got a lot of microtik, it makes.
We have a lot of microtik. We have several hundred microtik CPE devices deployed, and that's the vast majority of our network is the microtik stuff. But the call center, looking at regular Winbox when you're a call center agent is not as pretty as looking at the Calyx cloud when you're a call center agent. It's a lot more difficult for them to troubleshoot it. So we need some kind of solution for that, and that I think is kind of exciting for us. We're definitely interested in taking a look at it.
Full disclosure, we're a remote Winbox customer, and we're onboarding, are probably going to end up with around 3,000 routers on their platform. And it's been interesting because they've been around for a couple of years, but they've really just focused on that, providing Winbox access to routers, so no matter how many layers of NAT it's behind, it'll work. Which in and of itself, for me as a network guy, is amazing. That's awesome. But they've been super responsive too. So if you've got things that you're trying to accomplish that isn't in the platform yet, they're totally willing to be. In fact, I think they took a request of ours and within a few weeks had it in the platform. So they've been super open to those kinds of things, and I think it's going to take their platform from being just remote Winbox, being able to Winbox into anything, anywhere.
They may outgrow the name.
Yeah, the name is going to. I think they have already, to be honest. And I was talking to Mark about that, but it's a really great platform. I mean,
that's when you branded RWB.
Exactly.
The only thing that I saw that they didn't have was an API access.
Oh yeah.
So.
But I know it's easier to build the product first and then the public API.
They said they have an internal API.
Yeah, exactly.
Public,
yes,
so hopefully they can just.
Well, securing it and limiting it and making sure you can't break the database. It's
right.
Not to talk about vendor problems. We got two of us here, so that's fair.
You just can't trust those darn customers.
You really can't.
No, you can't actually.
Well, speaking of full disclosure, everyone's read the blog post from about Mimosa.
I was disappointed not to see Jamie here.
Yeah, he got canned back in
I didn't know that.
August or something.
I haven't gotten a bounce. Somebody read my emails. Oh well.
Yeah.
So this is not LinkedIn official yet?
No, it's on LinkedIn. Or like it shows that he had stopped
It's
working
no longer
there. Yeah, it's no longer there. And I talked to the Mimosa guys, and he was canned a little bit back. So
were they able to give you any more clarity on the whole
that's where
availability? I mean, they got pre-orders. Everybody wants it. I'm excited about it.
The word is, so they have 3 years of
to figure it out.
Yeah, to figure it out, and they have a pre-skeleton crew. And I've been watching their LinkedIn stuff, and half the sales guys who used to be here, who were here 2 years ago, are working for Tirana now.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, In fact, guys who are working for all of the radio vendors in sales are working for Taranis. So that's, that doesn't
and
mean
there's been a few that have come and gone though. I've seen that too. So.
They're running from pretty much a skeleton crew for their various teams. So it's
so they haven't shut it down. It's just iffy.
Yeah,
that's disappointing. It's highly anticipated. I would say everybody wants Wi-Fi 6 gigahertz, and they were first to market with it. You know, they beat Cambium on 256 QAM.
Yeah,
I still have gear today from the initial run of B11s that's still serving communities.
Yeah,
it's there were some initial failures, as you have with any new product, but it just still works.
Yeah, and Mike's a huge fan of the B5C. And it's
in the right application. It's hard to beat.
Well, and particularly when airSpan took them over, they seemed to resolve a lot of issues. Like we were taking down backhauls and they ended up putting them back up because they were so much better. Whatever they did, they really lined it out quite a bit. So
but it's an industry of ups and downs.
It is.
You don't want to get your heart too set on any one particular outcome.
We were talking yesterday about Taranis specifically, like Jeremey said that they just hired everybody. The amount of money that Taranis has spent over the last...
It's disruptive in the industry.
It's just the amount of hundreds of millions.
It's hard to compete with that.
Yeah, very hard to compete with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, and Taranis really going for a different market segment too, in a lot of regards, because you're talking a $16,000 access point.
That's supposed to replace like 2 or 3 $4,000 access points. I don't know. And then they're trying to run that argument on the power consumption side because it looks like a lot of power unless you count it per subscriber, and then maybe it's not so bad.
Yeah, well,
but you have to have the subscribers.
It's that CPE cost that's hard to swallow, really.
And then the monthly cost for the CPE.
Because
unless you want to do more than 50 megabits per second down, you gotta pay the monthly price.
Right, that's true.
You gotta pay that.
So if you're competing against high-speed, high-cost plans,
right?
Or if you're competing against high-speed plans and you can charge high cost, because I know areas where that would work and I know areas where it wouldn't. So you got to really just run the math.
So and have density for it.
Got it.
Hopefully, the Cambium gives them a little bit of run for their money, right? I mean, maybe that competition will be good. You know.
Have we talked about the G1 Plus announcement? Or?
So there's the G1 X2.
Yeah, X2. Because I did think they did their webinar last week. I did manage to catch that, and
I did not.
It was it's essentially doubling the channel capacity.
Right.
So not any new modulations particularly. I mean, maybe they're talking about a few filter features. That's still a ways out. They are going to bring out a second generation first, with the skip capability, but then they claim they will, a few months after that, release the firmware upgrade for the existing gear to enable it. So they say they have customers using this today, but of course it takes testing, and that's entirely plausible.
A lot of the guys who I've seen running Taranis stuff have been pretty darn happy. But like Cambium, you were saying, they're supposed to have a 4x4. I think that's in the 450 line is a 4x4 CPE now. So that's going to give you bidirectional MIMO, which is really important. And I think that's a big portion of the Taranis secret sauce. So that's going to be really cool.
If you're trying to do more symmetric plans, you need better uplink. That's typically been, given the lower link budget, that's typically been the Achilles heel of fixed wireless when you're trying to do a plan like that, or LTE. Same.
And then the X2 is also supposed to be doing 6 gigahertz. So
naturally.
But everyone's doing it. If you aren't putting out a piece of equipment that's doing it,
it's just nobody can run it yet, or very few. Very few.
Yeah, very few. You have to get an experimental license. But that's the cool thing for the 4600 though, is they were saying if you have an experimental license today, we have product to sell you.
Right.
So
I was like, I'm gonna get a license. I think I may look into that. I don't think. Well, Gino said like 45 days and whatever it costs with the lawyer to file the paperwork or something, and that didn't sound too bad. But I don't know how much it cost either.
Do you actually know how 6 gig works in Europe? Have you looked into it?
Yes, it has been unregulated for free usage in Italy at least 3 weeks ago, in the new spectrum update. But it's very, very power limited in terms of the power budget. I think it's about 16 IRP.
Oh, okay. So really short range.
Really short range, but that will help, for instance, in situations where you want to give backup fiber runs to customers, so that would work. And of course, you can obviously have no limitation in terms of how much gain you can put on the receiving side of antennas. So provided that the vendor can provide negative power, negative output power, then you can use bigger antennas, and you can pretty much reach the same distances as
the same link budget.
And if your spectrum's clean, then that
it's a lot cleaner.
Is that spectrum in use for point-to-point as it is here? Licensed point-to-point is a big consumer of space.
Licensed point-to-point is very big in Italy, but it's very expensive. It's, for instance, I would say like about 6,000 per year for 80 megahertz channel in the 11 gigahertz
in Canada's not quite that bad, but
wow.
Yeah, but it's still it's still okay, because the way we are now selling wireless is it's a premium product.
Yeah.
So it's like people who really want wireless. At least I'm serving enterprise market, so I'm not serving residentials. But people who really want wireless, they need to understand it's a premium product, because we have limited space on towers, we have limited spectrum, and so either you want to pay premium for the same bandwidth because you want to have a proper second link to the internet, or it's not the right product to do that job. Like, if you don't have the budget to buy it, it means it's not critical for the business. If it's not critical, we're going to sell the service to somebody else. That's our policy. And that is
you're not the only one here at the show with that attitude, and that's a really interesting it's a really interesting take on it. And
isn't it nice solving business customers, right?
It's wonderful.
Completely different.
But I don't think that that's a bad messaging anyway. Even in the retail space, maybe we should be leaning into this messaging a bit. I remember I had a customer who I had some backhauls and was doing a small amount of distribution. It wasn't doing a lot of retail. I was mostly doing enterprise. And the customer lived like 8 miles away and wanted a link to me. And I looked at that and said, well, you have a tower, but I got to burn 10 megahertz of spectrum dedicated to you. You can't afford that, right? That is a premium product. Exactly. So I like your messaging.
Yeah, that's what we do like since I think 5 years, and then we stopped selling multi-point wireless at the beginning of the year, mainly because we don't have the right vendor that can provide us the reliability and also the supply continuity of CPEs and stuff. So basically, we are now serving customers with the same product as we serve our own backbone, and we just buy at the beginning of the year. We just buy like tons of point-to-point links. We do shopping by using leasing programs, and with that we can obviously have stock to serve the customer really fast. So this is the idea, at least on how to run properly enterprise business. But yet you can do about 1 gigabit per second. Like, I would not sell more than that.
Right.
Even in the 80 gigahertz, we do have some links that can go 10 gigabit.
But then you don't have any headroom.
You don't have reliability, and that's a big issue. Like,
So Tirana is kind of upending this, and their goal is to get gigabit multipoint.
Yeah.
And in these wider channels, I mean, it's the same. It's Mimosa all over again in a sense, right? Where it wasn't the most efficient product, but it was resilient.
They started a revolution kind of.
It was 4x4, and so you could have. I had links where you have one of the channels in DFS and one of them in upper or lower band, and even though you're not getting that much out of the DFS band, it still provides redundancy. Like, it was the ability to then multiplex that across layer 1 was quite useful.
Right.
And whereas in other contexts, grouping together links of asymmetric quality or asymmetric capacity is problematic. So when you do it well, that has a niche. This is why I understand Hammond's a fan, and other people are like, it came in as this. They were like, we're the low-cost 11 gigahertz radio. This is before air fiber.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just interesting to see. Obviously, Tirana's messaging is very different. The price point is very different, but the philosophy is similar.
Yeah. We're going to bring in this new revolutionary ideas and really push the industry forward.
Right.
I mean, how long?
Single file.
Yep. Oh, and of course.
To Ubiquity, why they're not here?
They haven't come in for a long time.
They aren't
Because
even
last time
a
I was here in 2019 before.
No, they're not a member.
In 19 they were here.
They were here, yeah.
But
not-
Big booth.
Yeah, right. But
I think COVID stopped them.
So COVID, there was a year off for COVID, and then spring of 21 was the resumption at WISP America, and they didn't come to that. And they haven't come since. So it's been 3 shows.
Which is disappointing.
Sorry, 4
considering-
shows. That's 4 shows.
Yeah, and last year they stopped being members of WISPA.
Yeah.
at all. Period. Sometime last
They're
year.
still producing. Are we recording it?
It should be recording, yeah.
I think that was an
Double check.
aside, right?
Yeah.
You know, it is we've talked about it before, but you know, you've talked about it on this show before, but it's just been coming.
Yeah.
Like, to get back to Tirana, what is interesting, like, you know, new technology, it will take a while to proliferate between, like, it will take a while to see, like, how it really behaves at scale, you know, as soon as multiple people start sharing and consuming that spectrum and all of
You're all
that.
doing reuse one,
Yeah,
you've got your own towers, and you've got competitors.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be interesting, right? Like with Mimosa, it will take some time to see, like, yeah, they're trying to be a revolutionary vendor and change things, but it will take us some time to crystallize what the situation and the technology can do and how it will behave in real world multi-use scenarios, and that's gonna be very interesting
It's
watching.
very easy to have like excited early adopters of anything, and then you deploy it at scale, and you understand that engineering is always about trade-offs.
Yeah. Well, and you know, not only are you having to do the engineering trade-offs, it's the financial trade-offs too that are going to be really, really big calculation factors. So,
And that's what drives me nuts, though. You know, everybody wants fiber, everybody wants to buy this more expensive wireless gear and all this, all while internet prices are going down. You know what I mean? It's like it's kind of going, wait a minute.
Like the question is, are they going down? Because like I've been reading reports that for the first time in 20 years, prices are starting to go up again, especially in the wholesale part of the business. So maybe,
I wouldn't say they're going up very much if they are. I mean, I don't know what other people's experience
It
are.
also
but, I mean,
depends on the market, right?
Yeah.
It's very different for residential versus business versus,
I don't, at least in our area, I mean, there's so much competition. It's really hard to, I mean, without just competing directly on price, you've got to really find those markets where you can actually be competitive in other ways. Because even we've got competitors selling business, you know, fiber for, you know, less than $100 a month, and so it's like, you know, even gigabit, and so it's like, okay, where do you go from there? So you've got to find a different way to be competitive.
not just that, but you have the general, you know, prosumer, end user marketing now pushing 2.5 gig to the customer and all that, and like that sets expectations.
We've got 2.5 gig customers already.
Yeah, there you go, right?
Congratulations.
Yeah.
But that sets expectation of what like your end customers are expecting, right? And then if you have to compete on that, plus price, plus unreasonable expectations, really, like where does that, is that healthy for the market?
Right. Speaking of 2.5 gig in general, I've been kind of surprised at how 2.5 gig has really started to take off in the consumer market. There's a bunch of switches, a bunch of routers that are now, the new AX router from MikroTik's got 2.5 gig WAN port, or maybe all of them are. Yeah, so I mean, I guess that's the next stop off for the consumers is 2.5 gig.
Apparently it's only a couple cents more to throw that 2.5 gig chip in instead of having a gig.
Gotcha.
So and the bottleneck, as always, will be the Wi-Fi.
Right.
And there's just
wider channels.
So yeah, we'll get 6 gigahertz. Just everyone's ramping up for them to be able to actually distribute that within the home. But
we were looking at the Cambium. They ran their spectrum analyzer at 6 gig, and of course, there's just absolutely nothing. And across the room, it was pretty much there's nothing right now. Just wait. I mean, wait till every router's running 6 gigahertz and 160 megahertz channel, or 2 of them, or whatever the heck they're going to do.
Not just that, but like in Europe here, like most of the population lives in like houses and spread out living. But like in Europe, we've got apartment houses. We've got really high population density.
Yeah.
And just it's you look today, like in my apartment, I turn on Wi-Fi scanner and I have literally like 30 SSIDs broadcasting, right?
Yeah.
And so good luck doing anything if everybody's like 80 megs of
I hear the same complaint regularly. Why doesn't the US have good rails compared to Europe? And why don't we have good internet compared to Europe? And I said, well, in the areas that have the similar population density, we actually do. But most of it doesn't have that same population density. It's just giant, and there's a lot of empty space.
Yeah, we just try to tell people when they're living in apartments to get wired for success.
There you go.
we don't guarantee speed results over Wi-Fi even on our managed.
Absolutely.
Wi-Fi.
You can.
Yeah,
it's impossible.
You can. And it's the situation where you're
just somebody turns on the microwave and everything.
It's 2 gigahertz. Yeah.
What was somebody saying? 2 gigahertz is maybe going to make a comeback once everything kind of moves from 5 to 6 gigahertz. Like, oh hey, I can use 2 gigahertz again.
900 megahertz.
Actually, no, it's super funny because we actually see performance improving on our wireless links as everybody is moving to fiber. Like, you know.
Oh, right. There you go. Yeah, that's true. I never thought about that exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but like even if there is a comeback in the 2.4 gigahertz, then people start complaining anyway because they do run a speed test and they only reach 50 megabits.
Right.
They're like, it's not working because they usually go 300 megs. It's like, you're on 2.4.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
Right.
they can
Yeah.
expect it to do better.
Boo-hoo, yeah.
Yeah, what do we have in 2.4, 60 megs? No, 80. It's 80 megs.
Three non-overlapping channels.
80.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not a lot to work with.
No.
And this is, you know, we were talking about messaging before, and I think this is still a problem that we have, where product, you know, I know a company they're doing 2 gig symmetric plans, right? But they're really not going to be able to deliver that to the end user device. Or it's like, well, we're providing it to you, but then now it's your responsibility to get it any further. And
there's some customer education that still has to go on
there is so much.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know, just
Yeah.
this marketing of all these higher speeds, 2.5 gig and everything. But then,
Well, this is our battle with the FCC right now. We're really trying to say, and at some cases, like with the CAF funding, there was a performance obligation that did include latency. It wasn't measured very well, but it was still
a component of it.
A component of it. And to ignore that today and to say, well, no, we just simply need to keep pushing the plan speeds higher and higher. You know that, as Dave Tott said, it's going to be 100 by 20 at 600 milliseconds because there's no if there's no requirement to actually be something that consumers actually care about. So, not to rant, but
well, I
we care.
Consumers have gone back to Washington that latency at some levels matters because Washington has like really gone against Viasat and the other carriers like that.
But they've only just done 2 tiers of like high latency versus low latency, and it's just like,
and they're pretty wide. There's a big spread.
There's a big spread,
and so,
but also the problem is unless you actually define, and Dave Todd has talked about this, and defined like what percentile, and the fact that specifically it's latency under load that matters. Otherwise, you can lie about those numbers all you want.
We had a good conversation about that last night. I mean, just because
the numbers that we're handing to the FCC tomorrow are latency under load for licensed and unlicensed wireless, which we've got that data. And they need to start thinking that way. Like, this is actually how you measure the success of, of that customer experience, to get back to that. Like, stop selling a bigger plan, sell the actual experience.
Right.
You know, the actual quality. Like, if I'm a provider and I'm reselling, am I gonna buy the 1 gig that has consistent latency across it? Or am I gonna buy like this 2 gig cable connection that is super erratic? Exactly. No, I'm not.
it's a combination of factors, right? You want speed, yes. But you also want good latency, you want sustained good
latency.
latency.
Well, and as we've proven, when you have good latency, the speed comes as a result of that.
Oh, yeah, but it's it's a combination of factors, and like focusing on just everything should be blazing fast speed as the only focus of customer marketing. Yeah, numbers go up.
And then, because they don't need it either. That's the other data we've shown, is that over about 50 or 100 megabits per second, the actual, like on fiber, because we have fiber customers, the actual utilization increases only. You have to quadruple the plan speed in order to double the peak busy hour usage.
So
it's
actually
2 to 1.
We
Yeah,
were actually talking about
this
that last night.
and I have a little bit like
We've done
a different
a report on
opinion. Because like if you look at customer experience, what is the most frustrating thing is when you are waiting for something, right?
Right.
And like if you have today with Windows updates being 10 gigabytes without issues, game updates for their Call of Duty to their PlayStation, so that peak speed I think is a very big limiter of frustration of waiting for something. So I actually understand why somebody would want, like specifically
More is better.
Yeah,
really, you're right.
And so.
No, it's more about comparing multiple access technologies and multiple ISPs together, where if you're saying, am I going to buy a gigabit cable plan versus a gigabit fiber plan? Clearly the advantage is for fiber, because we know that the fiber latency will be
network
lower, must be lower, unless they do something seriously wrong. You can improve cable latencies, as Comcast has done with the optional, the 3.1, the active queue management. But I'm delighted that they put this report out. This is large ISPs actually taking latency seriously.
Right.
That's what needs to happen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a combination. Yes, you want peak performance, but yes, you also want consistent good latency, all of that. So
then you can take advantage of that actual gigabit.
Yeah. So I actually understand like the need and the call for 50 megabits today is sorry, it is nothing. Literally, for a 60 gigabyte update, it becomes, yeah, I can play my game tonight versus I have to download this update overnight.
I think, but that's sort of two different issues, right? Like it causes an immediate problem right now with that person not being able to play their game because they have to wait longer for it to download. But my argument has been, I agree that we should push past 50 megabits and try to deliver more, right? But if the rest of the house can continue to function even when that is downloading, that to me is more important than them just having a faster connection.
It depends. I completely agree. Like, yeah, a single download shouldn't break your network.
Right.
Yeah,
and it does for a lot of people. It's
and
crazy.
That's completely bad. But at the same time, like, if you look at like human beings, we were talking about this yesterday. Like, we are based on emotion.
Right.
And that
I want it now. The microwave society.
And if somebody asks you, how is your internet right there? You aren't going to think about all those days and years that it's been working. It's like, yeah, I have to download my code overnight. I couldn't play yesterday. It's
like you do with this inherent. Think about it. Even in these cases where you have these ISPs with high gain, again, the issue is high gain, link budget. The moment you get home or to some venue where you're going to be a little while, the first thing you do is look for the Wi-Fi because mobile has been such a success story. Licensed mobile has been so phenomenal.
5G is going to fix it all.
Yeah. I would say like having a big pipe is just half of the problem because most of the time, even with especially with smaller ISPs, if the network is not designed properly, even if you have bigger capacity links, just having, for instance, like software routing, that will completely create jitter in your network. You would not be able to reach the speeds, the number of speeds from cables. And we see that, especially, for instance, we do have software routing only in the core, only on the distribution layer, so closer to the CPEs. And that really doesn't allow us to reach more than 500 megabits per second per session. Well, as soon as we upgrade to something that is hardware-based routing, we go up to full cable speed. If it's 10 gigs, it's 10 gigs. And then also you have the problems of, as you were mentioning, like it is the customer responsibility to deliver the speed to the device, and that's even in the enterprise space.
That's true too.
We get complaints by the customer saying like, "Oh, we just bought your 10 gigabit per second plan." Like when we design our fiber network, we put 10 gigabit per second fiber everywhere because we were like it's business stuff, so why not? But people were like,
now they'll be 100.
We cannot,
so cheap.
we can't reach more than 100 megabits per second. Then an engineer goes there and sends me a picture of their switch, and we still have a 20-year-old switch that is 100 megabits per second. And we were like, why are you buying this plan if you don't really have the network to do so? And he said, like, because I've read something on the Magic Gartner report of the month that I need 10 gigabits per second.
Again, it becomes bigger.
Number is
bigger. It's education.
It's
crazy.
I'm happy to have the customer, but you also want the customer to be successful.
Yes, otherwise the customer will just go around and say like, oh yeah, I bought that service from that company.
It didn't fix my problem. It's like, well, we have a customer in the same situation. They keep wanting to upgrade, and I keep telling them, I'm like, okay, did you fix your internal stuff yet? Because they've got a bunch of wireless links between buildings, and I keep telling them, did you fix your stuff? Oh, well, yeah, or do you want to come out and fix it for us? And I'm like, not really. I mean, it's not my problem. I don't want to, but it indirectly affects us because they call us, they bug us about it. They want us, they keep thinking that more will fix the problem, and really it won't. And so, again, it kind of goes back to that customer education. I mean, so it's everything from, you've got to have a solution for them, right? So whether it's a better Wi-Fi or a better network switch or, whatever it is, I mean, we kind of become jacks of all trades because we have to be able to at least point them in the right direction. Otherwise, they just think that you suck. I mean,
it's a lot about the demarcation points, right? As soon as you start mixing, like take care of the customer stuff, take care of my stuff, where do we demarc? It becomes a mess.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is why it becomes often cheaper to just manage it fully and have fully managed service. Even in the case of the enterprise customers, when I was doing wholesale, I always insisted, no, you're going to have a managed router. I mean, feel free to run whatever you want behind it, but I don't want there to be any dispute about whether the circuit is working well or not. I'm not just going to hand you a layer 2 that I can't monitor. I'm putting something there. Or if you're a Metro B, you're doing
more is better. I was visiting a camping site a few weeks ago, and they had a problem with the Wi-Fi distribution on the site. And basically, The problem is that they kept installing 5 gigahertz access points.
Or should make it better, right?
It was like one access point every 20 meters.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, we cannot get speed. And that was true. Like if you were testing it, you couldn't achieve more than 5-6 megabits. Right. And then you run a scan and you see that all access points are in the same channel. And you're like, you're not doing any channel plan? Because they said, like the vendor said, it's just plug and play because we do have a controller, which is super expensive.
Right, because the vendor would never lie to you. They would never tell you something.
Exactly. So they looked at a ticket with the vendor, and the vendor came back saying like, "Oh, it's all operating according to parameters. We see nothing wrong there."
Right.
Like, how can you know?
Yeah, it's hard.
How can you deal with that?
I think a lot of the problem comes back to like people get burned by ISPs and they don't trust them. So I used to work in a call center, and I would get several calls a week. People want to sign up for an upgrade for their speed, and I go, okay, great. Well, you got a 50 meg package. What are you doing? You want more speed, and they're like, well, I'm just not getting the speed that I should get, so I want to upgrade. I'm like, well, you don't need an upgrade. You need to fix the issue.
Right.
But they're only seeing 10 megs because they're on the 2.4 wireless, but they see 10 megs and they just assume. We're just not giving you what you get because that's what happens.
They just call it the Wi-Fi.
But think about it, like for an average user, you are their contact point. You are providing me some speed. Like they don't think.
Oh, for sure, they don't understand it. That's fine. I don't expect you.
You are the only person they can call, right? They will not call TP-Link or D-Link or whatever crappy little.
They're obviously very jaded from past experiences with previous ISPs as well.
Right.
Yeah. So
they think that is what's.
But what I want them to open a conversation with is saying, like, I have a speed issue. I don't want you to think that you need to buy an upgrade. You have a speed issue. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out what's going on here.
Or
you're on the fire.
Yeah. You are not moving to the sales team.
You're on.
Well, that is true. Half the time, I did not sell them a speed upgrade because they didn't need it.
Right.
Because you're honest.
I would much rather be honest with the customer and be able to, and I think that's why we've had so much success with selling our managed router platform to people, is because it gives us the assurance that we're actually delivering what we're supposed to deliver to them, and we can at least say with some degree of confidence that if we're getting it to your router and you've got some kind of issue inside, which that means then now we got to figure out why they're having that issue inside. So you have to use all those tools at your disposal. So things like Precision and Managed Router and things help us see that full picture, because they are going to depend on you. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. They're going to cancel your service and go to somebody else because they think you suck if you don't have a solution for them, whether you like it or not. And that's just the reality of where we're at today, because the average consumer does not understand any of this. So you've got to be able to hold their hand all the way through it.
Not even average, but like
yeah, exactly.
Maybe the enterprise doesn't understand it.
Yeah. Like most of IT people now, they're more focused on the application side rather than on the cloud side, rather than on the networking side.
Yeah, like
networking is just plug and play. Just take a bunch of cables, connect them together.
Yeah, put it in the switch, it'll work fine.
Yeah. Not just that, like networking is a niche within a niche.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
It's like building roads. Like people just don't care. You just say a plug in.
You just want to drive a car on the road. They don't want to care how the roads go.
It's our world. So we think that everything is about networking. Because
it's true.
Right? For us, it is.
Yes, it is. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And increasingly so, as applications continue to be cloudified. Your comment aside about ISPs, operators wanting to have applications on-prem, is that we really can do our job well when we are providing just that big neutral pipe that works well, and ideally the rest of the things can take care of themselves.
Wouldn't it be nice if you just had to care about packets?
Honestly, I think that the Wi-Fi revolution, or this sort of the idea that there needed to be a demarc because now we had an additional access layer beyond the ISP connection. Like, we didn't have this problem in the dial-up era, right? You connected your computer. Right? I actually did use some dial-up routers.
Yeah, it's like
link bonded dial-up routers. I've done it.
I did a lot of ISDN, which
could
link on 3 individual.
It's fast. But where I think the mistake was, and just in terms of what the industry did, was not that we shouldn't have given customer choice. Like, you can go buy a router, you can go buy an access point. This is like post-98. This is post-Wi-Fi era. It's that as soon as you see that as an opportunity independent from what the ISP is providing, rather than integrated. And it's not even about
you lose the degree of control, right?
It's not even about losing the control. It's that the customer probably is having a worse experience there because of lack of understanding. And some of the vendor tools are getting better, like Plume, for example, or even Netgear. Where you can go buy your mesh kit and put it in, and it will actually help you determine whether you have a problem. On which side of the demarcation the problem is. But we're just barely getting to that after more than 20 years, 25 years of.
Seems like it should have come a lot sooner. Is what you're saying, yeah.
ISPs should have owned that experience much sooner. I was saying this years ago, like, why doesn't the router have a display on it so I can see how much bandwidth is being used or who's using it? Like, and I think Ubiquiti did one, and but this is like way too long. Like, this is race to the bottom.
Not just that, but like just a simple.
You don't control over it as an end user.
Just a simple question of who is using the bandwidth.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you can't influence it, you can't control it. The best thing you can do is be aware of it.
But how do you explain to a user what an IP address is, what a hostname is,
what
this random thing that you see,
right.
like just a question of understanding for the end user, not for us. Like, who is using the bandwidth? Even that is like completely not true.
So the problem is that networking is designed by network engineers.
Yeah, and for network engineers, right?
Yeah. Or vendors, by networking vendors, as I think that I put the blame solely at the feet of there, where. And I don't even think it was a case of perverse incentives, where the TP links and the Netgears of the world had a reason to prevent end users from understanding what was going on in their network. It's that we thought we could just get away with ignoring it, and then everything would be fine.
Well, I think there was a period of time when you could, when Wi-Fi wasn't as prevalent.
It's not even just it's not even just the Wi-Fi itself. It's also the fact that now you've got all this multiple devices connected. Even on the device itself, you don't have control over what it's doing.
Good luck on Windows figuring out which applications are using your bandwidth.
Might as well wait. They can't hear
Not only Windows, but just think about the privacy features on MAC addresses of phones.
Right.
So it's not trivial to understand even in
it's
your
not
house
trivial.
today.
It is hard to identify a client anymore now.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right?
applications.
And trying to explain that to the end user.
Right.
They don't care.
No.
And they shouldn't.
They shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can kind of own that, take that back as an industry, like solving the problem, not, and I think we are seeing steps in the right direction.
Yeah, no, so definitely some really cool stuff, and then WISP's got a lot of really cool stuff coming out. So definitely, lunch is happening, so I
You
figured
should go have lunch.
get ready for that.
It's been fun to get you.
I need to go flying out of here.
Yeah, do your things.
Thanks all for watching. Thank you all for showing up.
Thanks for hosting.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
You're flying out now?
At 2:05 is when my airplane takes off.
You better get out of here.
So sit back and start learning, lighting up the tower so people can start searching, shooting up the web in neighborhoods, net surfing. We got horrible jokes, we're loud and annoying, but we're informative facts, we're not disappointing. Just give us a listen, cause fun is the mission. I'm telling you, you don't know what you are missing. Ideas and some good comedy given. If you missed the show already, don't worry, you're forgiven.